Kate Hardcastle, CEO of Insight with Passion, the customer whisperer and podcast host, joins me now. Very good morning to you, Kate.
Hi, good morning.
Kate, we were talking earlier this morning about Oxford Street and how it has, I suppose, how we've fallen out of love with it a little bit. Do you think people just don't want to go there to shop anymore? Do you think they're looking for something else? Or do you think they don't go there because it hasn't evolved and adapted and kept up? Because when I walk down it, there's still people going there.
All of the above. I mean, it's such a breadth of topic and we've got a short amount of time to talk about it. But Oxford Street, I created a documentary on it, is one of the most phenomenal places when it comes to history. If you think about everything that's happened on that street, from the swinging 60s, the fashion, the music, the Beatles playing, everything, signing in fact a deal there, it's been part of the heritage and it has to move with the time. And we talk a lot about high streets attracting shoppers, but it's been my mission for many years to talk about human high streets actually encouraging and attracting people. It has to be about the experience and less about hanging our hat just on retail. So has it not moved with the times? I think we're probably at that very ugly in-between phase at the moment, and that's what you're seeing. Is there hope? Absolutely. There's some phenomenal experiences as well as retailers coming, but there's much more to come, and that's why it's so important your voice is heard as a consumer, as a person who uses that place on things like the public consultation, but also take to social media and talk about it. And did it fall behind? Yeah, I think a lot of places did, traveling around different places and towns and cities, even globally. It's not alone in being a little bit of a challenged place at the moment, but with a good future ahead of it. The idea of shopping in shops is not over at all.
Well, that's what everyone keeps saying. I mean, how long have we been talking about the death of the high street? It's been going on, and yet, I mean, it's a long death if it is dying, for sure, because it seems to be gasping a lot of final breaths. And by the sounds of it, and just like you said, Kate, we're doing this huge public consultation into this. And just tell me, in your estimation, how important are public consultations? Because this is the point in which people get to have their view and get to have their say. Do they really take it on board? Because some people will think there's no point because they don't listen anyway. Some people will not get involved and then will complain about it later. I feel like it's a little bit like voting. If you want to complain, you've got to do it.
You've got to make yourself heard, and that's why I was saying use social media as well. Try and get your voice out there, because I think sometimes it's that case of the same people go on record every time, and that means that the same types of voices get heard. They're incredibly important now. They're like many things in life. There's good, bad and ugly, and what we've got to hope is this lean into the organisation understands that it's only about going and getting voices from many expertise, many walks of life, that we're going to get that blended and fusion reality of how we live today. I mean, I only smile at the death of the high street because, again, something I've created a documentary on, but it's something that we've been talking about 15 years and it makes me feel really old. It's not dying, it's evolving. We can't see the significant increase in terms of online shopping and people turning to travel and food and hospitality rather than just spending on material goods. Those are big cultural shifts when it comes to our high street. But to take it out of that a little bit in terms of how we feel, we want to feel good. We want to build things in terms of our memory bank, if that's for the social media or if that's just for your own personal pleasure. We want to meet friends. We want to be more outgoing and gregarious. And as this pendulum swing moves much more to the fact that digital tends to isolate us as an experience, we then want togetherness. And some of the things I've seen coming down the pipeline, maybe in the next 12, 18 months, they're going to be experiences of wonder where you can go with family and friends. There might be a shopping output at the end of it, but a lot of it is about how do you actually feel within it. And what we've got to hope is that Oxford Street raises its hand enough to get some of the global opportunities that are coming into towns and cities as well. I sometimes think that a lot of the bad press has perhaps created it to move down the list in terms of that flagship high street of the world, and we really need to make sure that happens. So that kind of shining a light on London globally is a good thing.
What do you think Oxford Street's problems are right now? Because I suppose there's one thing for people to be going, but if they're going and not spending any money, that's not very useful. Why do you think people aren't there spending money, apart from the fact that no one seems to have any to spend?
Well, there's a cost of living crisis and people are prioritising, and that doesn't mean they're not spending. But when a I'm not blaming good old Taylor, but a Taylor Swift concert's announced or something else is happening, I think it's a prioritisation of numbers. We saw that standard headline last week, and millions being spent on huge events throughout the city just recently. So people have got to make choices. We've got our glorious West End, we've got creative, we've got arts, we've got exhibitions that have just opened. There's a massive selection of choice too, where you're going to spend the limited amount of cash that you might have. And people work really hard for that. So it needs to be a rewarding experience. I think one thing I would say, if anyone's listening to this, it's about selling what's coming rather than just living the present. And what I mean by that is, if you go to theme parks, if you go to the places in the world and they've got a big ride or attraction coming in 2-3 year time, what they do is they tell people and they engage them what's going on. So if I was the council, I'd be spending some money on telling everyone what we think's going to happen, how you can get involved in going on to the next phase with them, and how you can get your input and comments, but getting excited about the next level. And I can't see that anywhere down Oxford Street really at the moment. So I hope that's to come.
Yeah, and hopefully they can put it back, because this is going to rely on people buying into it. And just to speak of the cost of living crisis there, they're putting millions into this. And my question, I suppose, is can they do this? Is now the time to put this project on the agenda? Can they make this happen at a time when people are struggling? Or like you said, is it going to just be that people do have funds, they're just going to be using them more, I suppose, sparingly?
I think what we're talking about is a commercial partnership. You know, there's many, many opportunities for businesses and brands to get involved with an exciting vision. When we're talking about councils having to balance the books, and there's everything to play for, we know education needs support, our services, our hospitals, there's so much in terms of area of need. But a lot of those aren't particularly areas where a business would look to get involved. Our high streets, the way that communities come together and can be sold at for food or for drinks or for opportunities, experiences, retail, that's all areas in which brands are interested if you put the right offer there. And sometimes that's less about the cash you spend and more about the ambition you have. So I would like to think the right people are there to channel that.
Indeed. And I suppose earlier on when we were talking about this, earlier on in the show, and we were talking about people going there and making it access, the experience part of it is a huge, huge thing. Because if you can pull people for the food or for the mini golf or whatever it might be, you can then, the aim, I suppose, is you can pull them into the shop.
You're so right. And I think also one of the things that I saw in Soho the other week, which I was writing about, is the balance of what I call the David and Goliaths as well. Oxford Street's a street that had a lot of wall-to-wall big brand names, and that's great in terms of an appeal to some, but actually some of the smaller micro businesses are the flavour of London, the excitement. In a couple of minutes in Soho, I'd gone from seeing another golf bar experience, a skateboard specialist, a re-commerce shop, to you and me, a second-hand shop, you know, lots of specialist gyms. There's a lot of flavour going on there, and they're not all big brands. So what I think the council also have to do is create what I'd call incubator areas for micro businesses to be able to come and bring very different offers there, a lot of niche offers in places that they can be there, not worrying about massive rates, but actually to bring more fusion and more people into that area. And again, that should be an area of concentration if they're going through this process rigorously.
My guest earlier spoke to me about Regent Street and how it's owned by the Crown, and so it has more money, and Regent Street is and has been thriving, pandemic or no pandemic. Is this what this boils down to, just money?
A lot of it is to do with the ambition and infrastructure to start with. You know, what the Crown Estate have done is they've built places to be, they've put a lot of benches, a lot of flowers in there, they've invested in that area, they've told the story of that area, and Oxford Street needs to do the same now. But it isn't just about working in silos. London is London. When I'm on a plane coming back home and I'm with a lot of people excited to land here for the first time, they're not thinking, oh, is it going to be Regent Street or Oxford Street? Is it going to be Soho, or is it going to be the east of London? They're looking at it as an entity. So it's the conjoined thinking that really is going to make the difference when we think about people from outside inside the area. And I'm talking to tourists like me as well. You know, I'm a Yorkshire lass originally.
I trust you'll be adding to the public consultation, Kate.
If I'm asked, I'll be there.
There you go. Kate, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning.